What's up, YouTube? It's your boy DR2727. Shout out to my Transformers collectors, 1/12 scale collector, whatever you collect, shout out to you. And this month's video for January 2025 is our annual Transformers rundown. And that's where we count down all the figures I bought in the previous year. It doesn't matter if the figure costs $20 or $200. We've gotten to the point now, these toy companies are so good where they nail the sculpt, they nail the paint, and the character has to be painted correctly. That's like a bare minimum. This is the equivalent of painting Optimus orange and teal and being like, oh well, it's close enough. And on top of that, this figure doesn't transform, so there's no excuse for getting anything wrong about the figure. Like, that paint is completely horrible. It doesn't even look like the character. It look like it kind of could be the character, but maybe it's the character's cousin or whatever, or the character with a tan. Like, this is just inexcusable. I've had this figure before, so at least I knew what I was in store for. And I bought it for a specific purpose, but it doesn't change the fact that this is Fans Toys' worst figure ever. I've said this multiple times, the paint and the materials are top notch, but everything else is below Fans Toys standard. Another year, another X-Bots makes another sucky figure again that I bought. And I said I wouldn't buy any more x-transbots figures, but, you know, they do some interesting characters. I think that the conversation needs to be had that they aren't skilled enough to do MP figures consistently. And, like, this is a smart business plan for them to do figures nobody really wants or won't tackle. But they just aren't MP caliber. They aren't an MP caliber company. These aren't bad. They're not really good either. They're just fine. More underwhelming than anything. You get basically a repaint with the buzzsaw. And the other three are better than they've been with other Considercons, but still leave you wanting more. This is the classic company's ambition is greater than their skill. Them biting off more than they can chew, whatever you want to call it. Bayverse characters are complicated in general. This is more complicated than the normal Bayverse character, and they nail the car mode. And the bot mode actually looks really good. But everything else is a big fail with this. But on this channel, we reward ambition, even if it bites us in the butt sometimes. The good news is from here on out, each figure is at least okay. And that's kind of what this figure is. It's decent. I mean, you wish it did some things better, but it does the things Fans Toys are known for: sculpt, build, paint materials. Just wish they would have took it up another level. Especially with a character like this who had a personality and had a feature episode. They should at least gave you that thing from that episode to make it feel more alive. Pretty much the same thing as the one before it. I wish Fans Toys would have did a better job with the action figure element of it. But, you know, it's kind of that the whole is greater than the sum of its parts, and you need this to make the whole. I mean, it's a good enough figure, but Fans Toys could have definitely improved it. I know I'm gonna sound like a broken record, but this figure's just okay. I mean, it's nothing wrong with the figure, but, and maybe it's me. Maybe this is a space I'm new to, so I don't really fully understand what a figure in this caliber is supposed to do. But it didn't feel alive to me. Like, I got the set of the main characters, and, like, as you'll see as we go through, we'll talk about it. But, like, this just felt mid. Like, I felt like there were some standout figures. I felt like there was a trash figure. And I feel like this was an okay figure. I don't know if it's like because it wasn't, the red wasn't painted. I don't know what it is, but it doesn't come alive to me. I mean, it has all the nuts and bolts, right? All the articulation, you know, it's painted the correct color. And it does what I needed to do. But for a movie that I love so much, I really don't have no emotion toward this figure. Now we're in the good figure zone. Like, every figure from this point out is I would consider good. And I thought that this was a good figure. I think that, I don't know why people give flack for. Well, I do know it's Fans Toys and it costs premium price, so people give it flack. Granted, it's not setting the world on fire, but I think as an individual figure, it's closer to the Minosaur figures than it is to the Superion figures, and that's a great thing. A simple, straightforward release. I mean, it does everything it's supposed to do, with a little interesting sauce to it. And this is Iron Factory doing Iron Factory things when they do Iron Factory things, and when they do Iron Factory things, they are the best Legend scale company. When I bought this figure, I was like, oh God, here we go again. But this figure was an improvement over their Drift. It seemed like Metagate learned their lessons from Drift and applied it to this. This thing was tedious, but it wasn't hard. And it was amazing. I'll say this to anybody. I think Bayverse are the hardest characters to pull off because you have to do a real world alt mode and a crazy looking robot mode, and they did a really good job of pulling that off in all three modes. And yes, the transformation was tedious, but it wasn't challenging. So much character comes through in this figure, and for those who are new to collecting and don't know what that means, that term means that basically you feel like whatever media you consume the character from is represented in toy form. And this figure was so fun, so silly. It represented Bumblebee and Transformers 1. Like, YOLO Park knocked it out the park with this. It's a non-transforming figure, so I expect the sculpt to be there, and it was, but the paint was there. The accessories took it over the top and made this thing come alive. Basically, everything I said about Yellow Part Bumblebee plus one. I mean, this is D16. This is a perfect representation of the character for me. And I see why people are moving away from transforming figures. If this is a quality they're going to put out at a cheaper price point, yeah, this can definitely sway collectors. This figure started at number 19 on my list, but as I kept playing with it and started to manipulate it and play with it more, it just kept moving further and further up the list. And I have some thoughts about Magic Square that I want to save for the end of this video, but I think that Magic Square found a way to translate some of the great things and the fun factor of Legend scales into MP scale, and there's something to be said for that. While this figure may not look the way I want it to, there's no denying that this is a top-notch, professionally done figure. Me and my buddies often joke about one of the downfalls of being rich is that things that people often dream of become mundane for you, right? Like at some point, Dom Perignon just tastes like normal champagne. The filet mignon just tastes like a normal meal. The most prettiest women in the world, you just like, huh? It just bores you at some point, right? And kind of that's how I feel about this. Like, this is a very well done figure. Don't get me wrong. Top notch figure, but it's just like, it's ironic because it doesn't have a lot of soul, and for a character that's a hip, cool character, it's definitely missing that hip, cool fact. I've talked a lot about this figure. I did a 3 things on it. It was in my Transformers 40 of it series, and I think the best way to sum it up and say what I'm going to say is it's a love letter to Transformers and something that was definitely needed for the 40th anniversary. And as far as the figure, I think it was every little boy from the 80s dream figure improved upon. You know, in baseball, when they say the baseball looks as big as a grapefruit to a batter and they slam it out the park, well, this character and this design was a grapefruit to iron factor, and they knocked it clean out the park. The sculpt, the paint, the articulation, the engineering, the transformation, like it just, this character lines up with everything Iron Factory does well, and they did everything well on this figure. A lot of this is actually the fact that they finished it right. Let's not kid ourselves. But if you look at the actual combiner, like the combiner is super solid. It's a good combiner. I mean, we've had a good Ethereum, but I think it improves on what Zeta Toys did. But make no mistake about it, a lot of this is the fact that it's done. A beautiful repaint of an already great figure. Like, the difference between this and the original acoustic Soundwave is night and day because of that Onyx black paint. And of course, Ratback is a really well done accessory, a minifigure, whatever you want to call it. So it's a premium figure with the premium paint job the original should have had. This is probably the best, definitely top 3 action figures that transform. Like Magic Squad, you know, I don't like the look of it, but this articulation is bananas. They were able to capture that fun factor that comes in Legend scale and translate that over to MP scale, and that is not lost on me. Even the pose you see on screen, most figures can't pull that off and look natural. So before I finish it up with this, I want to shout out to homie Gib ATL. He bought this figure for me. He got me in on this line, and I'm so glad he did. He's right. This figure is amazing. I look at Fans Toys like I look at Lamborghini. Like, they're all luxury sports cars, but they have, you know, different price points, right? Like, you can get a Lamborghini where the doors go out. That's kind of entry level. Then you have the one where the doors go up, which is, you know, the level we most know. Then there's the level where the doors go up and it's supercharged, and that's the next level type thing. And I'm saying that to say that Fans Toys figures kind of fall into those categories, like the Braun, the Hot Rod, they kind of fall into that entry level, right? Like, you're getting Fans Toys build and paint and materials, but really nothing else. Then most of the other figures fall into kind of that second kind of tier, right? Like your Jazzes, your Mirages. You know, you get everything Fans Toys is known for, plus you get articulation or interesting transformation, either or. This one is that top tier. You get the Fans Toys paint you love, the materials that you love, the building paint and the sculpt that you love, the articulation that Fans Toys normally gives, plus they give you added articulation. Like, this thing is a butterfly joint short of having the same articulation the Magic Square Brawl does, but it looks way more mature, much more interesting. This figure has almost everything you want. It has sculpt, paint, build, materials, articulation, something Fans Toys doesn't normally have, and a very interesting and iconic gimmick. But it has one fatal flaw, and it's the transformation to that cab mode. And It's not as hard as everybody's saying it is. It just has an order of operations that nobody's really articulated correctly. But that's what keeps it from being figure of the year. Like, people aren't giving fans toys the credit they deserve for this. This thing is amazing. It just falls short because they couldn't figure out the transformation of this core robot. And the best figure I bought in 2025 is Unique Toys Red Dasher, or their version of Dino. And I knew it was special because I did a 3 things video and I couldn't come up with 3 things I didn't like about it. And that's when I figured it was gonna be in running for the figure of the year. I choose fun. Like, this is something the MP game has been missing. Just a good, fun figure that does everything correctly and doesn't make you want to hit your head with a crazy, ridiculous, hard transformation. It's a breath of fresh air, and you expect Unique Toys to have great movie bots because they've always had great movie bots. But maybe because everybody else around the game has made things so complicated, just returning back to the basics is a great thing. So yeah, figure of the year, Unique Toys Red Dasher. And stick around because I'm going to do a couple of superlatives after this. First, my most disappointing and most surprisingly good figures. My most disappointing is the YOLO Park Elita 1, and it's the worst figure of the year. Like, it looks so bad, I'm going to sell off the whole group and try to get the 3-0 ones. Like, it's inexcusable for the figure not to look like it should, like it did on the screen, and it doesn't transform. The most surprisingly good is the Magic Square Brawl. Look, just an amazing figure. Everything that's been said about it positive is correct. And I hope Magic Square can continue this trajectory because the MP game needs it. And here are my top companies for 2024. And number 5 is YOLO Park. I think they have busted the door open with these non-transforming model kit kind of build your own type figures. I think that this may be the new wave in collecting. Number 4, Fans Toys. You know I'm a Fans Toys fanboy. They are keep carrying MP on their back right now. Number 3, New Age. They are very prolific, and they are a boxer. They're a boxer. Basically, they're boxing and they're holding their own in one ring, but they're fighting another fight. They're about to get into the Chug game, and so we'll see how that goes. But you can't knock them for being prolific in the Legend Scale game. Number 2 is Hasbro Takara. I mean, they are ushering in a Chug renaissance. Plus, they're doing these G1 figures with new updated articulation. And they still, even though they gave up on the MPG line, they are doing the MPG stuff. Even though that's not for me, they are doing 3 different lines. And I think that the thing that's keeping them at number 2 is basically the Chug renaissance they're ushering in. And my company of the year is Magic Square Toys. Look, they're just like New Age. They're in a boxing match with New Age, and it's so close you got to go to the judges for the points. But not only are they holding their own in the Legend Scale game, they threw their hat into another ring, and they got into the MP Scale game, and they dropped one hell of a figure. Basically, they threw a haymaker and landed, and had the champs woo, had all the other companies woozing the MP game with that brawl. Then they followed up with a strong body punch with that swindle. So hats off to Magic Square. They're holding their own in one arena. They're coming in another ring and swinging, throwing haymakers and landing. So yeah, hats off to them. For 2024, I give Transformers Collecting a B+. This isn't the golden age that it was in like 2016, 17, 18, but this is definitely the silver age. I mean, you got the emergence of Magic Square in MP scale. You got New Age branching out the Chud scale. Fans Toys still holding it down. And on MP scale, you got YOLO Park basically breaking through with these non-transforming Transformers. Hasbro basically issuing in another Chug renaissance. Like, it's a good time to be a Transformers collector. I forgot to mention 3-0 still around. MMC still out. They making fire. I hope they keep it up. X-transbots still around. Flames Toys. Like, this is a time that they have something for every type of collector. No matter what your price point is, no matter what you're looking for, you can find something that'll satisfy your need. I hope you guys enjoyed it. Thank you guys for watching as always. Let me know your thoughts in the comments, and Happy New Year.